Here we are again, the Neals, and we're continuing to tell our story about how we met and ended up meeting face to face on Wednesday and marrying on that Friday. So, Willie James, um, we both had said that when we first started talking, that neither one of us were interested or thinking about marriage or anything like that. We were just people that knew each other from school or were trying to get to know each other from the school that we went to, all of those kinds of things. So, where do you think the transition started taking place to where it was just getting to know you and, he's just somebody I know or know, and the people that I know, we know the same people from school, and it transitioned until we started really wanting to get to know each other and led to us getting married. Tell us your story. Tell us your part about that.
Well, for me, it was like a combination. During this time frame, we were talking a lot uh, on the phone and online. Well, mainly on the phone because not really talking online most of it.
Mhm.
But it was at a point where we both had prayed about just not necessarily finding a match or anything like that, but just praying about just being better people. And for me, I just wanted to be a better person than I was or had been or anything like that because I just believe that at this time, the Lord had something great in store for me. So as we continued to talk, and I was one day we were online and we were at church, and it's interesting because with her being in Kentucky and my being in Georgia, the Zoom thing, it was interesting to see her and with her family and everything. And that impressed me because it was a comfortable feeling to talk with her and allow her to see me and not have that fear of, well, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough for something to that effect. Because I believe that for at that point in my life, I had prayed about it. She had prayed about it. We had talked, and we were comfortable enough just to be ourselves and
Mhm.
not have a person put before each other that wasn't truly who we are. So when we finally started talking, and I saw her that day. That's what I knew because to look at her, such a beautiful lady and everything, and that she was just the type who I felt because of my belief in the Lord and her belief, I felt that the Lord was leading us together because we just had conversation. It was a nice, comfortable thing just to
Mhm.
talk and just to be a friendly thing. We talked about the what's going on in the world today and what's going on with our families, what's going on with one another. That everything was just smooth and we were felt comfortable doing that. So as we continued that process, and she went down to this medical clinic, I continued to talk with her and think about her a lot more. And so one day, as we were talking, the subject came up about uh, longevity, a future, or something to that effect.
Mhm.
And since neither one of us really had been to that point or talked about that point in depth about being together for duration, we kind of casually mentioned it to one another and we laughed about different things and laughed about, what if, or I said something to the fact of, well, I'm asking you this question for a friend. And that to me is one of those turning points where I can ask her a question and technically I felt comfortable. I just said I'm asking for a friend simply because just to make sure she was comfortable with answering the question. And we laughed about it and talked about it. And she told me her answer.
The question was, you remember what the question was you asked? You were asking for a
I
friend.
asked you about the type of ring that you would like
Right.
for
Friend.
for a friend would
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
as a
Hmm.
invitation that they were ready to get married or something. And you told me what you would like, and then I even sent you a picture or told you to
That's
get a
right.
picture,
Hmm.
and it was interesting because that in itself wasn't me, because I would be the old Willie would be embarrassed or something like that. We certainly would not have done it, but I felt comfortable enough with you that I was able to do that and
Hmm.
didn't feel embarrassed, and certainly wasn't feeling embarrassed at your response. And you told me, and I enjoyed that because I felt it was something that was in the realm of us, and we both at that point, I think, felt that we could be that special one for one another. And once we started really talking even more, and I didn't do too much more of that, I'm asking for a friend type thing, because I started asking questions for me, and expecting a truthful, forward answer, and that's what I received. So I eventually felt that we would be a couple. And as we continued talking, and I asked you to come through when you left the clinic, and that was in not far from where I live. So I asked you to come, and you agreed to it. And as I say, that was something that the old Willie, would never do, because I was just such a person that I was am a little bit shy at times, especially with certain things that this lady not going to embarrass me. She's somebody. I'm nobody.
Oh no.
But it was I felt comfortable enough with her that I was could do it, and I just say, she come here, I'm just gonna be one of those people and say, I prayed about it, and I had prayed about it enough that I say, if she's willing to come, I'm gonna say, look, Lord, this is it. I'm ready to jump that broom, so to speak. And she was the type of person, once I saw her, I really even more so felt that she would be a person that I could be with longevity, because of her being beautiful, her just being just kind and just fun. We both have had fun then and have fun now. We can laugh and go about our business, and we're happy with that. We don't need be in a crowd to be comfortable with one another. We could just sit and just laugh at something all day, whether it's one another or on TV or something we read. So I'm comfortable with everything that we did, simply because we prayed about it, we believed in one another, we communicated, and I don't think we were shy about who we are, and so we expressed who we really were and what we really wanted.
Yeah.
And it did take a little time just to just being that communicating type of people that we both are, that we learn one another, and we believe that the Lord was showing us the way. So from that point on, we've been here, and we still enjoy one another, still laugh, and just have a good time.
Hey, you said you explained it very well, baby. I'll give my version, which is really what it was. But like he said, we had prayed. We weren't at the time thinking about getting married or anything like that. But long years ago, I had been divorced for 20 some years, as I said. I had made a list of what a mate, what I needed in a mate. And I didn't just make the list. I actually prayed about every single thing that was on the list. And some things I took off the list. And later on in our, in our videos, I'll explain about why that's important and, and the process of it. But at the time, I prayed about it. And so people would say, "You're such a great person," or whatever. "Why are you not married?" And I would say, "Because they ain't on the list. They ain't got everything," because it had to be every single thing that was on the list because I had prayed about those things. And like I say, what God told me to put on the list, I did, and what He told me to take off, I took off. And so He actually checked every single box that was on that list from God. And so that was real interesting and real scary, as well. I was like,
Mhm.
oh my, okay. This guy is just all that, whatever. And later on, I'll tell you about a dream that I had years and years before, not his actual face, but his being and what happened. And it turned out to actually be true. But that's a story for another time. But you know, being on the online and things like that, it, like I said, I never dated somebody from offline or whatever. That wasn't my thing. No, I'm gonna need to know them. I'm gonna need to know, who they are actually, and you can present as anything online. But what helped a lot was that your past profession, he worked in government, and where he worked in government was one of the highest security details or whatever. And so I knew that he wasn't a criminal. He wasn't all these different things because if he had passed that level of security with the government, then I was like, oh, okay, he's okay with that kind of thing. So I knew he wasn't a serial killer and all of the different things that he didn't have 12 kids here, there, and everywhere. All of those things were already checked out. So I felt comfortable about that, because I was always worried that people online, they just present as somebody and that may or may not be who they are. So he checked out with those kinds of things. And then also, as we progressed talking, he asked very, very poignant questions. He wasn't just like, "How was your day?" or things like that. He totally asked things, that let me know that wait a minute, this dude is like, he's really serious. He asked, like, he said, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you like to live? Name me the top, three places, and why would you like to live there? All of those kinds of things. Um, he even asked, about my kids and their dad, and was there any kind of drama there or whatever? Because he's not for drama at all. Okay, so he wanted to know about that, and did they have children, and was I, the kind of grandmother that had to keep the kids, or all of those different things, and those were questions that literally gave me pause in a positive way because I knew that he was really interested. And and he even asked, "Do you have tattoos?" Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm sure he wanted to know, like, do you have 20 of them? You have some on your neck, or what are we working with here? Type thing, and so I appreciated that. My profession is a marriage and family therapist. I've had a private practice for, almost 35 years. So as that kind of doctor, I'd pick up on stuff right away. That's what I did. And that didn't make you back down either, because most men that I had met when I told them I was a psychologist, they were like, "Oh, okay, no, you're gonna be trying to analyze me and read me and whatever." And I was always thinking to myself, well, I wouldn't have to analyze you. You ain't got nothing to hide. I only analyze if I have to, if you're not upfront. But he was very forthright, with everything. And as he said, because we didn't have any expectations at all, it made it very easy. We were just cool, we just flowed because he wasn't trying to impress me. I wasn't trying to impress him at all. We were just talking and going along. Even when it started, the questions and things started getting very serious and very poignant, I just felt comfortable to be myself. And, not that you don't need to always improve yourself, but I'm not going to be trying to change and try and do this, that, and the other. I'm just Renee, as he says, I'm Willie James, and this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. And I liked that, that he didn't try to act like he was somebody else or this, that, and the other, because I would have seen through that, and he definitely would have seen through it with me. So I think that that made a difference. And then he did give me a big pause whenever he asked, my friend wants to know about what kind of ring, you would get, that you would suggest. What do you think? And I was thinking I'll tell him about this. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is really serious, And but I didn't feel in any way to back down. He had been divorced for about 11 years, 12 years. And I liked that because he said, I didn't want to rush into any kind of a relationship, and I wanted to make sure I had done the work on myself. That was just so important. And then him saying, I asked him, if you had to do this over again, what would you do differently? Or what do you see now that you could have done better in your relationship?
Hmm.
And he was very honest and open about that, because most people, they try to blame the other person for everything. Oh, you don't know. They were this, da, 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 and it always takes two to make something and to break something,
Hmm.
And so for him to just be open and honest and say, I could have done this different or that different as I think about things, and I told him for me, things that could have happened differently in our relationship, in my ex marriage, whatever. And I liked that. And he didn't pause. He just answered. And he said, whatever you ask, you just ask me, I'll tell you, And so
Hmm.
when he talked about me coming there, coming to visit and see him, I told my friend, my girlfriend, or whatever, I said, he wants me to come visit. And they were like, no, girl, no, he come to you. You don't have you coming to him, type thing. And I was like, no, no, I want to go to his place because then I can leave if something is not right.
Hmm.
I don't want him at my place, and he knows where I live and all, my life and everything, and he can present a different way. No, I want to see, and so I appreciated that. And yeah, and whenever uh, I came, I still had that idea. Well, if it doesn't work, fine, okay. I have my own transportation. I can go right on back home to Kentucky and I'm good, And so when we actually met on that Wednesday, I had that in my mind. Well, whatever. And he had gotten a hotel room already for me and all of that, type thing. And I was just like, okay, let's see, what's happening. And it just,
Hmm.
when I tell you, it just really was God. And we can't say anything different because it just was like never missed a beat. We just flowed. Hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah. What you want to eat? Da 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 da. We just laughing and talking as though we had known each other. Our whole lives. And yeah, and so that was interesting because he didn't tell his family about me ahead of time. Why didn't you tell your family about me?
Well, I wanted to be a decision that was mine and mine alone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
get influenced by anything anybody else had to say, or
Mm-hmm.
or or that they may not like or what
Mhm.
have you. I just felt that I was ready to make a decision, and the decision would have to be
Mhm.
something that I believe the Lord was leading me to.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And not, a lot of time people want to ask a lot of different people,
Mhm.
well, what do you think about this and what the
Mhm.
Lord tell you? I
Mhm.
say, look, I have the connection with the Lord. He'll
Right.
tell me what he wants. He's not going to go and tell everybody else, and then they come and tell me.
Mhm.
I'm one who believes that I can talk to him too, and
Right.
he'll answer me.
Mhm. For me, it was the same up until it got real serious, and I could tell that it was serious. Was my friend who had prayed for me, as I told you in the last video, I told her, oh, okay, I met this guy and he's cool, but I was very, very vague. And she's like, girl, what happened? I was like, well, he is somebody I knew, knew of and was in his space, a lot, even from kids, that, but I didn't let them know how serious it had gotten. But one of my I wouldn't say a deal breaker, but that would have given me pause was if my kids did not like him, and because I have one daughter who loves love, and it doesn't matter who, whatever. If I say, I'm marrying Joe Blow, from Timbuktu, I never saw him. I'm going, she went, oh, that's so wonderful. And, shed all the tears, all the things. I love her for that. She's very accepting. My other daughter and my son in law, they're very, very analytical, very cautious, very, intuitive, I must say. And they never liked anybody that I talked with. No, no, mother, no. And so so I didn't introduce them right away, but when I did, it was online, and I was anxious to hear what they would say. And
Mhm.
I mean, as soon as we in the conversation, they were like, yes, we like him. I was just like, what? All these years, y'all ain't like anybody. Y'all don't even like my friends almost. They do like my friends, but they don't like anybody. And for them to, both of them, to say yes, and uh, they were not even in the same place. They were one was across town, and they are not married. The one daughter that loves love was married to the husband that, was very cautious and very protective of me. They were like, yes, we like him, And so that was something that was very important, to me. As I said, I don't know that it would have been a total deal breaker, but it may have given me pause because of their relationship, with God. Yes, and we'll talk about his kids because they were just so wonderful, and and just so accepting of me. And we just clicked just like they were my own kids. He has two daughters as well, but we'll talk about that, the kids and all that another time. But anyway, whenever we met, as I say, we just clicked and we set up that night at my hotel room. And we laughed and talked and we just had a great time. I think we went to the Huddle House or whatever that was next door
Mhm.
to the hotel and ate, nothing fancy or anything. We didn't even plan anything. We were just like, we just going with the flow, whatever was happening, And we were laughing and talking and just having a great time and just decided, yeah, well, I think this is it. Why don't we, get married? And we had talked about marriage, of course, but not, we needed to sort of see each other and see what kind of attraction we actually had, type thing. And so he was just like, yeah, I think we should get married. I was like, okay. And I said, well, you have to ask me formally, and we're not going to just get married like that. Honey, let me tell you, brother man already had a ring. Okay. He was ready. He was like, oh, okay, this is how we do it, And he did the form. I was a little taken back. And he said, this is just a stand in ring. This is just one until you get to pick and choose, but what you really like or what we'll go shopping for one, but this is the stand-in. I was like, okay, and so we were actually going to go the next day, that Thursday, but it was during COVID and the courthouse wasn't open. And so we went that Friday and got married. And yeah, and then we bought a house together and bunches of stuff. I mean, like this, we did all of this and yeah. And then after we got married, then he took me over to his mom's house and his sister's house. And they were just like, so now what now? What? Where are you talking to anybody? We saw you at the Zoom church or whatever. And we were all wondering, well, who is that lady? He just says, oh, that was somebody I went to school with. And that, so, he had school friends. So we didn't even, think of anything. Y'all are married? That was funny. And your mom just looked at me like, okay. Oh, they had to process it. And the judge was so wonderful that married us. She actually had her clerk to take a video for us so that our kids could, see the wedding, see the ceremony, not a wedding, but the ceremony or whatever. And yeah, and so we sent that to them and we to my kids, his kids or whatever, and then we let the kids, I mean his mom or whatever, see it, and she's just like, oh, oh, okay. Yes. And his sisters, they were just like, well, whenever we saw your name on the screen from the church, we didn't really let Willie know, but we looked you up already. Like, who is that? I love his sisters because they were looking out for their brother. Like, he just said they friends from the school, but she keeps coming and she doesn't live here. She's not a member of this church, so why she keeps showing up? So they had already investigated me. So that was great, and it just was such a positive, time for us. And even he was already in the process of buying a house. And then, we'll tell that story because that's a whole God miracle, huh? In itself, the house and all of that.
What happened?
Yeah, yeah, how it happened. But that day after we got married, we came and looked at a house, and all of that, and we just went with it. And the advice, I guess, not guess, but that I would leave is this may not be for everybody, to just meet the person, face to face that day, even though we had been talking for months. It may not be. Yeah, go on.
But I think that the part that is for most people, if you're serious about life, you're serious about your relationship with the Lord, is you just be yourself and be honest. And once you reach that point, I know it's tough for some men to get to that point where they just, put themselves out there. And instead of sending a representative, they the one that do it, And that to me was where I was. And I think that showed her that, I was serious about who I am and where we could be. And therefore, it's been a few years now. She still I'm still the same person.
Right.
And I just thank the Lord for blessing both of us, being able to reach this point.
Right. And what you said is just so poignant, is that it is very important that you put God in it, and even people who say, I don't believe in God and this, that, and the other. But you have got to be guided by something greater than yourself. And because we're Christians, that's what we stand on, is God. And let him lead and guide. And at a certain age, at our ages, I just don't believe it takes forever for you to figure things out. In a few minutes, whether this is a good person or not, if you're open to it. Now, if you're one who's trying to find things wrong all the time and this, that, and the other, or you are, very critical all the time and those kinds of things, or if you're not really ready for the relationship, you think you are, but you're really not ready, then it may not work out. But if you are, then in a few minutes you will know whether this is a at least somebody who has your time. And as I say, I feel like the list is important for men and women. And even though Willie didn't have a list like me, but he had an idea in his head. He knew what he was looking for, even though he may not have had it written down in a journal like me. But, those questions that he asked, made me know that, yeah, he was like, some things are unacceptable and then some things are good, you know, and are okay. And for us, being married before, what mistakes you made before, and taking time like we did in between the relationship, not just jumping right in, but say, okay, Lord, what things do I need to work on in my life? And how do I need to be better and present myself, as the person I really am striving to be? And then just being really, really open and honest. Just this is who I am. This is what this is. And I preach that to so many couples is you need to let the person know, as he said, don't send another representative and then 5 years later they find out, oh, this is what he really is, or this is who she really is. No, you show up and say, I want to be the best person I am, but these are my struggles, these are my things, and allow that person then to make choices. You take away those choices whenever you don't show up for who you really are. Then the person can't say, this is something that I can handle, or this isn't something that I want to deal with. Give them that opportunity to say, this is something. What I will say about Willie James is he's very, very laid back. Can you tell? Yes, very laid back, and means what he says what he means. And I actually needed a man who could handle me. And let me tell you what I mean by that, is I'm some kind of woman, okay. Not just being accomplished or whatever, not really that, but having, a long time being independent and doing for myself and taking care of my kids myself and just navigating through life. Then I got to be able to respect you. You got to be able to say, yeah, this is this and that's that. And that's what I appreciated about him is, yeah, he's man enough, assured in his manhood enough to be like, okay, we can go with this, or no, this is not what this is. And I'd be like, okay, I like that. He's gonna say, let's do this, let's do that. And I respect that about him. Yeah, and we just, as he said, we just enjoy. When we talk again, we're going to talk about some of those particulars, some of those things that are very important to discuss whenever you're thinking of getting married, whether it's from somebody online or whatever, but just at the age, of 50 plus or 60 plus, those questions and those things that are just different than if you're in your 20s or 30s, and you're just okay with the potential and just love, love, love. Because I feel like we had a level degree of heavy like, I don't know that we were just head over heels in love, but we knew what we wanted or whatever. But over time, it just became that, he takes my breath away kind of a love, but it grew. What do you think about that part before we go?
I agree with that
Mm-hmm.
because I think that at a point when you start getting older, like for me, at the age I am now, being 64,
Mm-hmm.
to me, my mind says I'm in my 30s.
Right.
I'm still good with everything.
Mm-hmm.
But
True.
in the reality hit is a little bit different. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing that I think is taking us some time to get used to,
Mm-hmm.
for any person, any man, especially to get used to the idea of getting older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really can turn the tide for most men. They
Mm-hmm.
realize that, that that you're on this earth for a limited time.
Mm-hmm.
Why why you don't just choose to be happy, be at
Mm,
peace with
mm,
everything. You don't
mm,
have to try to pretend anything.
mm.
Just live life and enjoy life, and
Right.
especially if you can find someone like I did, somebody that you enjoy.
Mhm.
That's the important thing. And
Right.
so I enjoy every minute that I have, and I'm
Me
thankful for
too.
Lord blessing me with a mind and with her. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm totally happy. And just
Hmm.
like I say, breaths take away in love. Yes, yes. And as I said, yeah, we're going to be talking about those particulars, those things that you do need to, deal with as you get older, as he said. Also, you saw where we love Africa as well. And we're going to be talking about that because that's in our plans as well to move to the continent of Africa. And so we're going to be talking about that and how the progress we've made and what we plan on doing, even why we decided to move. So you just stay tuned. If you want to subscribe, then you can subscribe. Yeah. And if you want to like it, you like it. Yes. And if you want to share it,
Share it. You can share it.
yeah, that's it. If
And
not,
then
yeah, that's okay too. But please do. And we look forward to seeing you the next time.